Okay, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance and Governance Committee to order for April 26, 2022. And roll call and posting the agenda.
Member Tehran,
Here.
Chair Zaragoza.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on the City Hall Bulletin Board on April 19th, 2022.
Please join me to salute for the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, our next item is public comments, and I have one speaker that's on the list here, and that's Janissa Perez. Is she on, Madam Clerk?
Mayor, the speaker is not available at this time.
Okay, then we'll probably get her later on when she calls in. Our next item is C1. This is consent item. This is a City Clerk's Department, approval of the minutes, and the recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee approve the minutes of April the 12th, 2022 as presented.
Mayor, I have no corrections, so I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Okay, and I'll second it. Let's vote. Are we on? No? Yeah. So how about if you do a roll call? Okay. There it is. Okay. Okay.
Motion passes 2-0.
Thank you. Our next item is D1. This is reports, City Manager Department. The subject is revenue assessments and revenue development project and the creation of a comprehensive Oxnard master fee schedule. And the recommendation is that the Finance and Governance Committee recommend that the City Council adopt a master fee schedule. And we have Ashley Golden for any additional information. Councilmember.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Golden, for
Let the record show that Basu was here.
thank you for being here tonight for this item. I just had a quick question about this. I see that in the staff report, the attachment has a draft of the master fee schedule. Just in a quick minute or so, would you mind just summarizing what this item is so folks understand the background if they didn't get to see the video, and since they can't see that live presentation tonight?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. And I would like to recognize on the screen Beth Ward, who actually was the author of this report with the other team members, Amy Vanietta, Jenna Alvarez, Sabrina Rodriguez, and Victor. Sorry, Victor, I don't know your whole last name there by looking at it. I always just call you Victor on the phone. And Chandra. They were wonderful teammates that put all this hard work into this report. And the summary of the report is the primary purpose here is to develop a high-level overview of a master fee schedule. So simply speaking, this was taking all the fees that we already have on the books, getting them into one comprehensive document, which you saw how long that document was. This was a tremendous work effort by this team to find all those fees, and with a lot of support from Jason Zaragoza in the city attorney's office as well. But this is step one of a multi-phase project. And that multi-phase project is really taking a look at all of the fees that we have within the city, identifying where there may be gaps, where we aren't charging for certain fees, and also making sure that we're following the council's financial management policies of ensuring that those fees are cost recovery. So step one was this huge lift of just getting all the fees in one document, and that's what's before you this evening. And if any of the team members would like to add to that description, please feel free to raise your hand and be able to jump in there. And thank you again to all your hard work on this.
Thank you.
Okay.
And as a quick question, also, Looking at the phases for this entire effort, phase 2 is a fee study. And if and when we arrive at phase 2, because today we have phase 1 in front of us, it sounds to me like the intention of phase 2 of a fee study is to look at our fees we have in place, see if they are appropriate for the level of service and the cost of providing that service is appropriate. And if it stays the same, great. If it needs to be adjusted, then we would do that too. Is that accurate to say what the fee study would entail?
That is accurate.
Thank you. And the last thing I'll say is the attachment, as I mentioned, is a pretty massive document. And again, thank you to the entire team for putting in obviously what was a lot of work and effort to put that together. I'm hoping that when this effort is all said and done, there might be some ability to take that document and have it be searchable or easily accessible to the public who needs to or wants to find that information on the amount of a fee. And even better would be someday in the city's website, if it's a searchable field where you type in the type of fee or what you're looking at, and it return results from the table that we have rather than having to sift through the large table itself, if that makes sense.
Yes, and those are all possible outcomes. Step 1 is simply getting this in one place, and it'll be part of an attachment to your budget document. We can also put it up online, but as we bring on a consultant to help us with the fees, there are a lot of different examples of fee schedules out there. So we will be able to personalize it to the needs of Oxnard and ensuring that it is easily searchable and people can find what they're looking for. That is one of the main goals of this project.
Great, thank you. And those are my questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Ashley. And also, I want to thank the Master Fee Committee that worked pretty diligently. That was an extensive report that you guys put together. And one of the things I think that's important is that the fees are going to be comparable to other type cities, same size of cities, and basically more or less for the type of services they provide for the city is what we're looking at too. Is that correct, Ashley?
The intent behind comparing is just to kind of get a gauge. We did this recently with the diff fees, but ultimately the fee is set by the service provided or by the cost of providing that. So a lot of that is for the educational component with the city, and also to give kind of a framework to the council, if you will, when you're making those policy decisions. You can set the fee lower than what the cost is. And in some, or you can implement it over time. So those comparable cities help you understand how to get there, but there are many differences, which is why you need to bring on somebody to help you do the study of how those fees are developed and what goes into them. So it's hard to really have a 1-for-1 with another city. Even if you had the exact same size and age, you might have something different in that they're a consulting service city and we're a full service city. So all those things go into the cost, but they do give you a good framework, if you will, for looking at it.
So I know that the fees are being set for permits for the fire department, for other agencies too, but in the utilities, do we have to follow a 218? Can you raise rates to a certain point that above and beyond? And I think you mentioned that depends on the service amount, right?
Yeah, there are
under 218. Yeah.
Yes, and I was going to look to Jason if the Prop 218 came up, or to Steve to talk through that. But there is a very specific Prop 218 process that you
That's
must
right.
follow, and that we would follow. But I don't know if either attorney needs to provide more context or clarity with that.
Jason, I think 218 is really important because we cannot go above and beyond whatever 218 dictates. Is that correct?
Correct.
Steve?
Those fees that fall under Prop 218 would be handled under those procedures.
The procedures. Okay, thank you. And again, I want to thank, I think one of the things that you mentioned, this is going to provide clarity, which we don't have, and so if people turn the page, they're going to find out more or less what the fees are. So we don't have to be going from point A to point B and so forth. So I think it's a good process, and it seems like the committee did a lot of work, so I commend you for that.
Yes, they did.
Councilor Basu.
No, I look forward to the finished product. Thank you.
So what's the pleasure of them?
I'll move the recommended action.
Okay, we got a first by Councilman Turan, second by Sua. Let's please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
So we don't have any speakers on this item, Madam Clerk.
No speakers.
Okay. Okay, so we'll go to the second item is Public Works Department, the Utility Rate Assistance Program, Project Assist Update. And the recommendation that Finance and Governance Committee recommend to the City Council, one, that adopt a resolution for the Utility Ratepayers Assistance Program, Project Assist for fiscal year 22-23 to assist eligible Oxnard residents and authorize the staff to grant financial relief equal to a monthly rate of $15 maximum credit per utility being charged to the customers who meet the eligibility requirements discussed in the staff report. And to authorize the staff to direct, authorize staff to direct up to $145,000 from the penalty fees charged to city utility customers who pay their bills late to fund the utilities ratepayers assistance program, Project Assist, in fiscal year 2022. And we have Mr. Jay Duncan. Any questions, council members? Councilman Turan?
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Mr. Duncan, for the presentation. And
Or Mr. Wolf?
Yeah.
Both of them, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
thank you. So I was looking over the staff report, and after viewing the presentation, a question I have kind of goes back to a brief discussion that this committee had last year when this item came up. And that's regarding the level of support or assistance that we give to eligible customers. I see we're at $15, and we've had a significant increase in the number of folks who have applied for and gone into the program. And historically, where it seemed that the number of folks who were applying or getting in seemed lower than what we had budgeted for the program, I'm wondering, based on where we are now and based on cost of living increases, inflation, number of things that have increased as of late, what our capacity is to up that $15 to another, to a higher figure. So I guess my first question on that would be, do we know what the average bill is for the customers who are eligible for this program?
Yeah, good evening, committee members. Michael Wolf, Director of Public Works. Maybe our utility billing manager may be able to answer that question more directly, but my understanding is about $180 a month is our average utility bill for the participants.
Good evening, Mayor, Council
Eden.
Member.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Eden.
Eden Alomeri, Revenue and
Mhm.
Licensing Director. Mr. Wolf is right. The current average household bill for water, sewer, and trash is about $180. For a regular size family, it's about $200. For a two-person household, usually they're the seniors or the empty nesters, would be around $160 a month. So to average across the board, it will be around $180 a month.
Thank you, Ms. Mary. Do we know also where the balance is for that fund at this point? Just approximately what that looks like?
Was it a million some, was it?
I'll
I
actually
think it was about a
have
million.
Betsy come out and answer that
Okay.
question.
Hi, Betsy George, Chief Financial Officer. And we don't put the fee penalties that we collect into a separate fund and then just disperse it for the utility relief payment. It comes from the enterprise funds, so water, environmental resources, and wastewater. And so there are sufficient revenues in those funds to support that. And we would just budget it if the council had.
Yeah, but the amount of the funding for this program is solely out of fines that are collected, late fees that are collected. It's not the rates paid by the ratepayers. Rather, it is fines that are generated from penalties for late payments.
Okay.
Thank you. So that being said, and thank you, Ms. George. So that being said, I'm just wondering, keeping in mind that in fiscal year 2021 and 21-22 up till now, no penalties have been collected, but we've carried over unspent funds from previous fiscal years. I'm just wondering what the capacity is to increase that for those folks we have on board and those we anticipate who will stay eligible and become eligible in the coming fiscal year. So I just want to throw that out there, and I don't know if my committee colleagues would be interested in providing some input. I feel like increasing it by maybe $10 to 25, if that's financially able to be carried by what we have now, would be fair, but I'm throwing that out there just as a number to start with, but I'd be open to discussion.
First of all, let me a question before we do that. This is $15 per utility, so is it $45 total?
It's $15 flat.
Flat,
That's
$15.
correct. And
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And my understanding then is that we had what, 107 customers, and now we're up to 805 customers. Is that correct?
So
that-
currently, the chart that's in there talks about our last year, full fiscal year was 750 applicants that were in the program.
Mhm.
And for the first 8 months of this fiscal year is up to 707
707,
That's
okay,
correct.
right up to now.
through.
Mhm.
Mr. Mayor, committee members, my name is Jay Duncan. I'm the call center manager in the Public Works
Mhm.
Department. And I've managed the Project Assist program since its inception in 2017. Could you repeat your question?
So the question was,
yeah. Oh, so 805,
yeah,
if 805
It's a max.
residents signed up at the beginning of the fiscal year, we could fund 805 residents if they sign up at the beginning of the fiscal year.
and Jay, would
So-
it be up to 145,000 and that's it?
Right. The
Okay.
budgeted amount this fiscal year is 145,000 and then
That would cover up to 805.
805. And right now it looks like we're going to end at about 750.
So,
Same as last
take
year.
into consideration the council members, if we raise it to say $25, how many clients can we take care of then? We'd
Well,
have
Let
to
me,
do-
let me just clarify something. So the 805 would be if they all did 12 months.
Okay.
So just want to make sure that's clear. If they applied January 1st, all 805, that's the total amount. So
So potentially it might not be that many.
it may not be that much because some people apply in March or April, so they only get those months thereafter. They don't get all 12 months.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so.
So just, we did some math. So if it was at $20 per month, again, just as an example,
Mhm.
833 participants for 12 full months is $200,000. Just sort of benchmarking it there.
Another 50,000.
One thing I will say though is, there are a lot of rate assistance programs out there through the COVID process. So this is not the ones that we've talked about before, which are the arrearages programs for water and wastewater, and we'll be bringing forward a low-income housing one as well. So this is the specific one for the city that's been around since 2017. So it's the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of rate assistance programs just through the CARES Act and things like that.
Okay, go ahead, Turan, and then
Did you have something?
go ahead. Mhm.
All right, thank you. So just doing some quick calculations here. Does it seem that $200,000 to up to $250,000, is that sustainable by the program as it sets now?
Well, I think part of that, it goes to what the city attorney talked about a little bit, is we got to be mindful of the Prop 218 process.
That's a 218.
And so I would hesitate to go any higher than what's already been established without having that analysis done, or at least looking at it a little more in depth so that we're not crossing over into non-penalties to be used for this.
And Councilmember and Michael, that was going to be my next question. How does it affect 218? And that you just answered that question because we can only go X, on that.
Okay, so that being said, I'm just curious, is this something that would be able to be direction from this committee for staff to look at and see if we could
Good point.
come back and look at a couple scenarios and how that's sustainable and where we are with 218?
Absolutely. Timeline wise, we just have to have it ready for the next fiscal year, correct?
So generally,
So we can also choose to add additional funds to this program through the general fund or other sources.
From
So
funds.
it really doesn't, it's just a matter of policy decision.
That would be part of the options, absolutely. Good point. Go ahead, Jane.
so in the past, like for example, last year, the committee heard this on May 11th, and then June 1st, the council approved it. And then we were able to get letters to all the participants before the end of the fiscal year for the following, for this current
Oh,
fiscal year.
okay.
And therefore, we had that into utility billing in plenty of time so they could track and apply that financial relief.
So if we,
So- And we did have 506 residents that first month of the fiscal year sign up of the current 730 that we have right now.
So Jay, if we had an adjustment, or Michael, it would take effect next year, not this budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess our point would be that we got to be careful. We wanted to have the program in place and enough time to
Right.
get folks to apply for it. The analysis shouldn't take too long, but I just want to make sure we're mindful of the time frame to have the program in place.
Good point. Go ahead, Councilman. Mhm.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that if we're able to take a look at that, I would like the public to know that for one of the other committees tonight, there's going to be discussion around the low-income programming that Mr. Wolf alluded to a little earlier. One thing that isn't lost on me is that these coronavirus aid programs, these are not going to be perpetual ongoing programs. This is a one-time thing to help folks who are very behind in their utility bills or who require some additional financial support, and the state has the ability to help them get caught up on that up to a certain amount. And so I think that's great. I hope folks take advantage of that. But what we have in front of us is potentially an ongoing local effort through the city of Oxnard to support our residents who could benefit from some monthly assistance every single month with their utilities. So I just want to throw that out there. It's important that we take a look at this. So I'm glad we're able to do that. And that would be my ask, is that we do that analysis and bring that back so that way we know all our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted on that.
Would Steve, would that come back to the committee or before we go to the council? The entire council?
No, I think there's room for adjustment. It's been hashed out at the committee level, which is the purpose of the committees. So
Okay.
it could move to
Okay.
council with that analysis done.
Councilman Basu? No.
So when the analysis does come back and the funds that are being used currently are those of late fees, right? Fees that are being collected. Those fees are going to fluctuate over time based on, how much it is collected. So I think it's just a matter of whether or not the general fund can do an additional $10. So is that the study that's going to happen? Because I'm not understanding exactly what's gonna
So
take place.
my understanding of the request is it'll be some very straightforward math in terms of if it's $25 total amount. Then the question there is how much of the penalties are available, because that's the money that has to be used for that process.
Mhm.
So sort of separating out as that was mentioned, making sure we're separating out what the penalties are, and is that sustainable at a dollar amount that is $20 or $25? That's the information that we can provide, because then it comes back to if it's not sustainable just from a penalty standpoint, then there will have to be a conversation about
Yeah.
other funding
So-
sources.
So based on the staff report that was provided, it's, if we add an additional $10 to the current allocated amount of 833 is what is being said, we're looking at $100,000. So based on the late fees, it's not sustainable. So is the
Mm.
council directing staff to look at other sources in order to fund this?
Like the general fund?
Yes. Is that what the direction's
Right.
going to be?
That's your.
My direction was to do, as Mr. Wolf had mentioned, look and see if this is sustainable solely through penalties, if they will support this. And if not, that can be a policy discussion of the general fund,
The
picking that up.
yeah, the only,
Otherwise, we can go with the 15.
the only concern that I would have would be what effect is it going to have on 218? And then we would look at the different options, whether to subsidize it by the general fund, you know. Is that-
Mayor, if I can add, I'm not sure, Councilmember Basu, if that's correct or not. I'm not sure. What I think part of the analysis needs to be is asking Ms. Alamiri to
look at it.
see what is the current balance of that account, and then how much do we bring in annually on years that we do bring in that penalty, that we do assess the penalty. So there may be a need for additional sources of revenue or sources of funding, but there may not be. I want to be cautious.
Oh, one of the ideas too, Council Member too, and Basu is how much can we raise it with what we have now? Could it be another 10 or another 15, or you see what I'm saying? As opposed to just a plain $20. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, looking at the table from the staff report, it looks like the first fiscal year, there were 1.14 million in utility penalty fees brought in. The following fiscal year is 1.3. 1920 was 1.01. Then we had the coronavirus,
It was
which is 0 and 0.
Mhm.
In the corresponding utility rate assistance expenditure, where we had 1.14 million come in penalties, we spent 29,000 that first year in utility rate assistance. The next year was 50,000. The following year, 77,000. And then this year they're asking for 145,000 to fund. I think it was 750 people or customers at $15 each. And so I just feel that there's cushion there to, if the analysis allows for it, to
So
allow
we
us
can
to
look
up
at
that a little
I
bit.
I think we need to figure out what those late fees are being used to currently. So I think that's what the
That's-
study
that's
needs to be
Sharing
about.
that.
So, okay,
Right.
so I understand. So,
Thank you. Yeah, we wanted to make sure
Right.
this is not the only thing that those late
This is-
penalties are used for.
right.
So again, it's just that analysis of what do we bring in on an
Exactly.
average year for penalties? Where else do we use these
Mhm.
funds? And then it's just a
And
math problem after that, right?
correct.
Absolutely good.
Okay.
Okay, so
Thank
that-
you for the
you're good with
clarification.
that? Is that a motion then?
Do we need a motion for that? Direction?
Or direction?
Yeah.
And so we need to do we need a motion then to adopt one and adopt one or not yet? That's right.
You have an additional ask on the direction, so I would include that as your motion.
So adopt that and then with the additional, go ahead.
Yes, so I would like to make a motion that we do send this to council for review pending the analysis by staff on the 3 different scenarios. One would be what's proposed here, $15 at 145,000, or at $20 or $25 for utility rate assistance.
Second? Oh, Steve, are we okay with that? Good? Okay,
Certainly take a vote on it.
okay, good. Let's vote. I was just thinking of the wording. Okay,
Motion passes 3-0.
okay, thank you. Thank you for the good work and the dialogue and discussion, and thank you so much. And so we are adjourned.
I didn't have it.
Oh, I'm sorry.